Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. First of all, I would like to thank the organizers of this, the Hayati, for inviting me to allow me to participate in your gathering. So, because I wasn't given a specific topic to talk about, I thought I might talk a little bit about the background of the Islamic movement, activities of my father, and the situation that we are having now.
صحبتاشون در خصوص در واقع زمینه‌های پیدایش و شکل‌گیری جنبش مقاومت اسلامی نیجریه شروع می‌کنم و اینکه حالا وضعیتش به چه صورت هست.
So basically, right from the beginning, from the inception of the Islamic movement, which is practically something that started as activities by my father and a few other students within university when they were in school.
جنبش مقاومت نیجریه در واقع با فعالیت‌هایی که پدر ایشون و جمعی از یاران پیروانشون مثلا در دوره دانشجویی یا بگیم در دوران طلبگی آغاز شده بوده شکل گرفته. ریشه‌هاش برمیگرده به فعالیت‌های اون.
So there was a presence of active Islamic activity of sorts within various institutions within universities and schools, and at the
فعالیت‌های اسلامی که در زمان دانشجوییشون در دانشگاه‌های مختلف بوده این فعالیت‌ها از قبل وجود داشته.
Sadly, it wasn't a very popular thing to be identified with, as since post-colonization of Nigeria, since the independence, people tend to sort of think that religious activities are sort of backwards. They were almost like an identifier of like you're backward or not really civilized.
در نیجریه دوران پس از استعمار جنبش‌های مذهبی به طور خاص خیلی با استقبال روبرو نمی‌شد، چون نگاه مردمی بود که در واقع یه جور گام رو به عقب محسوب میشه و خیلی استقبال نمی‌کردن از فعالیت‌های حالا اسلامی حتی.
And oftentimes when people would be active in Islamic activities, it would be restricted to things like, speaking about praying or anything spiritual, but nothing really social or political.
فعالیت‌های اسلامی که داشتن معمولاً محدود می‌شده به مسائل مذهبی مثل در زمینه نماز خوندن و حالا اعمال عبادی و مسائل اجتماعی و فرهنگی خیلی نبوده.
Even talking about just spirituality was sort of really seen as backward, to the extent that actually, even though we have a history of an Islamic society and everything, my mom always told me that when you would wear a scarf, and just a scarf, and we're not talking about like, wearing a long dress or even loose stuff or anything, just covering your hair, you would be shouted at and things like that, especially within academic environments, would be called, fanatic or something like that.
اینقدر نگاه نسبت به مسائل مذهبی منفی بوده و اینقدر که حتی در مورد معنویت هم نمیتونستن صحبت بکنن. این مسائل معنوی هم نگاه منفی بهش بوده. حتی مادرشون میگه که زمانی که یک روسری میپوشیدی، نه حتی یک چادر و یا حجاب خاصی باشه، فقط در حد یک روسری، مردم رو نشانه تحجر و عقب موندگی میدونستن و برخورد بدی باهاش داشتن.
Sadly, it was a time when communism was very popular, and even the people that weren't really into communism were into capitalistic type views, and religion was genuinely not at all the sort of what was seen as progressive or anything close to that.
به خاطر نگاه‌هایی که بود، چون کمونیسم اونجا حاکم بوده، به خاطر نگاه‌های حاکم خیلی نسبت به مسائل مذهبی و کلاً مذهب خیلی نگاه مثبتی وجود نداشته و اون رو هم نشونه تحجر می‌دونستن.
So when my father started his activities within the Muslim Student Society and university, he always had sort of thought, growing up from a religious home, because our family was historically a religious home. His father is a scholar, his grandfather, and it keeps going on backward pretty much. Even though they also weren't like particularly people who were revolutionaries, but at the same time we do have a history of a political type of view of Islam, and Islam as a system for governance and Islam as a pretty much system for all social aspects, because we have no, not just in Nigeria, in the region, in Nigeria and other parts of Africa within the area, West Africa.
میگن پدرشون حالا به خاطر توی خانواده مذهبی بودن، پدر اجدادشون هم این دغدغه‌های مذهبی رو داشتن و خب این دغدغه‌های مذهبی باعث می‌شده که پدرشون هم درگیر فعالیت‌های مذهبی باشن و در انجمن اسلامی دانشجویان که هست فعال باشن و حتی نگاه اسلام سیاسی و پذیرش اسلام سیاسی و اینکه حالا اسلام به عنوان در واقع شکلی از حکومت باشه در منطقه زندگیشون و حالا منطقه نیجریه وجود داره و این نگاه هست.
And so he had always been a person who thought that we sort of, as a form of like being anti-colonialist, anti-imperialist sort of, he'd always thought that it's something important that we have to go back to our roots, considering that just about 200 plus years ago we have had an actual Islamic revolution in the region in West Africa, not what's Nigeria today, because Nigeria was created by the British. So basically in the region of what consists of Nigeria, Niger, and other countries around those regions.
What was in the country and the region?
Around West Africa, basically.
Okay. What was there kind of political system that they?
Yes, we had an Islamic government prior to that, and we had an actual Islamic revolution. We had an Islamic sort of system, but it was a traditional system where the kings were Muslims, and then later on, we had an Islamic revolutionary by the name of Sheikh Usman bin Fodio, who sort of challenged that and insisted that we had to have an Islamic system governing everything, basically economically and everything else.
چند قرن پیش اگر به تاریخچه در واقع قاره آفریقا نگاه بشه در کشور نیجری و کشورهایی که در شاخه آفریقا وجود دارن این نگاه به اینکه اسلام به عنوان سیستم حکومتی باشه وجود داشته و حتی در واقع حکومت‌های اسلامی و سیستم‌های در واقع حکومتی اسلامی در این منطقه بوده. شیخ زکزاکی که به خاطر نگاه ضد امپریالیستی و ضد استعماریتی که داشته تاکید داشته که ما باید به ریشه‌های خودمون برگردیم و در واقع اون سیستم رو احیا بکنیم.
Prior to the Islamic revolution here in Iran, they looked to pretty much whatever Islamic revolutionaries they could find to sort of as a sort of inspiration. For example, I know that one of the books that inspired my father was, Milestones by Sayyid Qutb of Egypt, and other books by Hassan al-Banna, people like that who were sort of Islamic revolutionaries of that time.
قبل از اینکه انقلاب اسلامی در ایران شکل بده پدرشون در واقع دنبال می‌کردن به نوعی جنبش‌های اسلامی و تفکرات اسلامی رو و تحت تاثیر در واقع اندیشه‌های سید قطب و یا حسن البنا بودند.
So basically around the time when Imam was sent to exile and everything, that was pretty much around the time when more and more people, especially in Nigeria, people were knowing about who is this Imam Khomeini and things like that. And my father says that's around the time when he actually knew of his existence, and that's when he became curious about what Imam was doing. And so,
زمانی که امام تبعید میشن زمانی بوده که کم کم امام شناخته میشه به اینکه حالا این رهبری که در واقع داره اقداماتی انجام میده چه کسی هست. شیخ هم در همون زمان در واقع از وجود امام مطلع میشه و خودشون میگفته که کم کم در اون زمان بوده که با اندیشه های امام و افکار امام داشته آشنایی پیدا میکرده.
So when the Islamic revolution of Iran became successful, basically look into any other Islamic revolutionaries, looking at Imam's movement becoming successful, it became pretty much like a beacon of hope, something that indicated that this is something that is actually possible, because even though they thought they had to pursue something in that line, genuinely speaking, most of the people, like my father and any other person that adhered to his sort of views, they just thought they had to still do it. At least they will have some type of excuse if they were to meet Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and then hereafter.
So you mean that it was a kind of model for them that
yes.
they did in practice? میگن زمانی که انقلاب به پیروزی رسید در واقع یک امیدی در دل این افرادی که نگاهشون به اسلام به عنوان در واقع یک شیوهی برای حکمرانی و اسلام سیاسی مثبت بوده امیدی رو در دل اینها ایجاد کرد. یک الگویی برای اینها بوده که اون اندیشه‌هایی که در سر و در ذهن داشتن رو در واقع ببینن که به منصه ظهور رسیده و بتونن ازش الهام و الگو بگیرن.
So coming to Iran about a year after the revolution and witnessing a lot of things and how successful the whole endeavor was and everything, and meeting with Imam and everything, did give my dad an even stronger sort of sense of certainty that this is actually something that will work. And also that was, I mean, looking at Imam's life and everything, that was his introduction to the school of Ahl Bayt.
زمانی که یک سال پس از اینکه انقلاب به پیروزی رسیده، شیخ به ایران سفر میکنه و با امام دیدار میکنه و با اندیشه های ایشون آشنا میشه و در واقع به این اطمینان میرسه که این همون مدلی هست که مطلوبشون هست و این مدلی هست که برای کشور و برای جامعه اسلامی جواب میده.
So when he went back to Nigeria, actually, because at the time he was the I think vice president, international committee of the student organization for Nigeria's universities. Yes.
در اون زمان در واقع میشه بگیم که جانشین دبیر انجمن اسلامی مسلمانان نیجریه بوده شیخ.
So they normally have these vocational courses that they have they have the regional ones and then they have the national one, which pretty much all the students from different universities and everything will come about once a year or so.
هر ساله در سطح حالا هم ملی هم منطقه‌ای همایش‌هایی برگزار می‌شده که دانشجویان مسلمان دور هم دیگه جمع می‌شدن.
So that year in 1981, I think, or 1980, I'm not sure, when they had that national program, that IVC, he had to speak at the program, and when he decided to speak, he pretty much made up his mind to make a declaration to say that from that day forward, he would no longer follow the system that our country is built on, and would strive to build basically a better system, something that is based on Allah's commandments.
در تقریبا همون سال که تخمین می‌زنن سال 1980 یا 81 بوده، در واقع این همایش ملی که برگزار میشه، شیخ تصمیم میگیره که و اعلام میکنه که با این سیستمی که حاکم هست در کشورشون کاملا مخالف هست و اینکه در واقع اعتقاد داره به یک سیستم اسلامی باید سر کار بیاد.
This was a program that was broadcasted on TV nationally and everything, and it's a very long speech actually. It's documented. It's titled "Funtua Declaration."
این سخنرانی در واقع توسط رسانه‌ها پخش شده و حالا ثبت شده هست و در آرشیو موجوده.
So while he was in the middle of delivering the speech, apparently, most of the people that were on the stage with him, the heads of the Muslim Student Society and everything, just pretty much left the hall. They were scared that maybe the police would come. I mean, this guy is trying to bring trouble to us. He's saying he no longer wants to follow the system or something. Yeah.
در وسط سخنرانی ایشون وقتی که ایشون داشته نطقش رو ایراد می‌کرده، تقریبا تمام کسانی که حالا بگیم سران این انجمن‌های اسلامی دانشجویان در سراسر کشور نیجریه بودن و روی سن حضور داشتن، کم کم سن رو ترک می‌کنن و میرن پایین، چون می‌ترسیدن که حالا چون شیخ داره با سیستم حاکم مخالفت می‌کنه، پلیس بیاد آنها رو دستگیر بکنه و اتفاقی براشون بیفته. Okay, what is the population of Nigeria and how many people are Muslims are?
Well, there's no actual statistics maybe for the past almost 7-8 years, but the estimation is about 200 million people. And
تخمین زده میشه 200 میلیون نفر. البته آمار رسمی طی 8 سال گذشته منتشر نشده.
Yeah, and there's about 120 to 30 million Muslims total. 120 to 30.
120 تا 130 میلیون مسلمان هستن. So the majority are Muslims.
Yes, about 60 or something percent.
How many are Shia?
The estimations that I've heard are about between 15 to 20 million.
15
to 20, yeah.
15 تا 20 میلیون تخمین زده میشه شیعه هستن.
با این وجود به نظر میرسه که این حرف شاید غیر منطقی برای بقیه بوده. کشوری که مثلا نزدیک به 55-60% فقط مسلمانان میخواد که خودش اسلامی کنه، حتما چالش برانگیز میشه برای این چه توجیهی برای خودش نکردن. یعنی اگه تو ایران اتفاق میفته، بالای 90% مسلمان هستن و شیعه تقریبا، یعنی یه جمعیتی که یه دستن امامی کار میکنه. این اتفاق بخواد تو نیجریه بیفته و شیخ اینو اعلام میکنه به نظر خودش رو آماده برای تعاون جدی کرده.
But he's asking that it was quite expected for Sheikh that because the majority of people are not Shia, and so when he's offering a kind of system like in Iran revolution, he was expecting some kind of challenges there in that society, right?
I wouldn't exactly say so because, well, while my father is.
You know what's his question is that when we are logically considering the situation in the country, not all the people are Muslims and not the majority are Shia. So it's highly, it's questionable of how Sheikh thought
thinks
that
this is
was
possible.
going to be.
Well, I don't think he thought in his own understanding it's an exclusive sort of, let's say, system that is exclusive to, let's say, Shia population or something. He genuinely was speaking to all the Muslim population, and while the country is not majority Muslim, we do have a history of a Muslim government with majority Muslim people, and it does not mean, you know, subjugating other people or anything. So it just seemed like something that could work. It may not look exactly like
governments before in history.
Yes.
میگن که در نیجریه سیستم در واقع حاکمان مسلمان و حکمرانی مسلمان در تاریخ نیجریه بوده، با اینکه اغلب همه مسلمان نیستن، و اون چیزی که پیشنهاد شیخ بوده این نبوده که در واقع یک سیستم شیعی روی کار بیاد، بلکه می‌خواستن مبنا اسلام و الله باشه و قوانین اسلامی باشه.
به نظرم اگه ما فقط اطلاعات میشینیم، حالا میخوام با یه چیز دیگه که شاید جلوتر توضیح بدن، به ما مثلا شنیدیم که قصه زاریا مدافعان شیخ که شهید شدن برای دفاع از شیخ مسیحی داره. پس من اینجوری میفهمم، حالا شاید برداشت من اینه که شیخ نگاه فرامذهبی داره. اگه حکومتی همونجا داره پیشنهاد میده، به نظرم یه جوری هست، یعنی یه چیزی توی اون سیستم حکومتی هست که قابل قبوله برای بقیه مذاهب و ادیان.
He's referring that we heard that many, some of the defenders of Sheikh Zaria incident were not even Muslims.
Yeah.
So we believe that you see that Sheikh was not just doing religious; it was beyond religious. Even non-Muslim people believed in Sheikh. So this is kind of correct that you're saying that what he was saying that was not just limited to the Muslim population. He was looking much more broadly, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Ultimately, like I said, we have a history of an Islamic government, but we have a history of so many other types of governments that existed that were based on other people's lifestyles. All that was more than clear at the time, and to this day, is that we live in a system that was built by people that came to colonize us and built it for their benefit, not for ours, and we're still living in that. Pretty much all of the continent is.
در نیجریه نه تنها فقط حالا سیستم های اسلامی روی کار بوده، بلکه حتی در واقع حکمرانانی بر سر کار بودن که غیر مسلمان هم بودن و حسب در واقع نگرش اونها اون سیستم اداره می‌شده. اون چیزی که اذیت کننده بود اینه که سیستمی که الان در این کشور حاکم هست از در واقع استعمارگران تحمیل شده و برای این کشور تعریف شده و الان در نیجریه همچنان باقی است.
And well, sorry, I'm trying to remember what I was trying to say. Okay, yeah. So
you were saying that he was interrupted as people were leaving the building.
Yeah, many people were leaving.
Yeah.
An important thing to point out actually is prior to that declaration, he never thought that he would call to something and he would lead an Islamic movement or anything. In fact, he didn't consider himself equipped for that or educated enough for that. So he actually went on a tour around to meet with different ulama, like different Muslim ulama in Nigeria. We have different people that follow different Sufi tariqas, and he went to meet with lots of them to discuss, like, this is your responsibility. We study this from you. Like, we have to practice what we study. That's what Allah says then, and you teach us these things. So that means you have to stand up and challenge what we are living in. And he went to so many scholars. There's actually a very prominent Sufi scholar in Nigeria. He's still alive right now, who my dad went to meet with, and he was telling him, you know what, you're very brilliant and you're this, and you know what, I would suggest you go to a seminary, continue studying Islam, or something silly like that. He actually told him that. And so none of the scholars...
to continue his education rather than starting a political movement.
Yes, and in my father's view at the time when he went home, he thought, like, going to meet with scholars, because none of what he's thinking comes from him. It's things that he's learned from such people. Yeah, sorry.
میگن که یکی از نکاتی که حالا باید حتما بهش اشاره بشه اینه که موقعی که شیخ در واقع این صحبت رو می‌خواست ایراد بکنه، هیچ موقع هدفش این نبود که خودش بشه رهبر جامعه حالا مردم نیجریه و حتی زمانی که از ایران داشته برمیگشته هدفش این بوده که بره و با در واقع علمای مختلف دیدار داشته باشه و این کار رو کرده، به علمای مختلف، فرقه‌های مختلف رفته، با اون دیدار کرده و بهشون گفته که اینها در واقع وظیفه شماست که در واقع برخیزید قیام بکنید، کاری انجام بدید که اکثرشون در واقع نپذیرفتن و حتی اشاره میکنه به یکی از صوفی‌هایی که الان هم در قید حیات هستن و میگه به پدرم گفتن که بره و درسش رو بخونه و در واقع مطالعات خودش رو تکمیل بکنه به جایی که حالا وارد فعالیت‌های سیاسی و اجتماعی بشه.
And basically none of them, despite agreeing that you know an Islamic movement, an Islamic effort is important, none of them was willing to do anything. None of them was willing to actually say, okay, we should maybe challenge our system or something.
تمام این مکاتب حالا فرقه‌های مختلف اسلامی که در نیجریه بودن و با شیخ دیدار کردن همشون تصریح کردن که یک جنبش اسلامی برای یک کشور در واقع نیاز هست، ضروریه، اما هیچ کدومشون قبول نکردن کاری در این زمینه انجام بدن و اقدام کنن.
And that's when he pretty much decided to make that declaration. And when that was going on, pretty much only few young students, especially very young ones, were interested in what he was saying. Most of the older ones were actually going after the people that weren't leaving the hall and trying to convince them, listen, if you don't leave this place, we don't know what's going to happen. The police could come and arrest us, many things could happen, let's just leave.
زمانی که برای همین میشه که شیخ تصمیم میگیره که در واقع توی این همایش ملی دانشجویان این رو اعلام بکنه و وقتی هم که صحبت میکنه و این پیشنهاد رو مطرح میکنه، تنها چند تا دانشجوی جوان اون وسط در واقع پذیرای ایده‌های شیخ بودن. میگه حتی اونهایی که قدیمی تر بودن میرفتن توی راهرو به بقیه میگفتن که باید اینجا ترک بکنین و یعنی پلیس میاد میگیرنتون. در واقع یک فضای خفقانی بوده.
So this declaration became pretty much the beginning of the Islamic movement that we see today. And at the beginning, it consisted of just a few students, definitely less than 100, very few people that were committed to this very huge mission.
این سخنرانی رو در واقع بنیانگذاری جنبش مقاومت نیجریه میدونن و میگن که شاید در ابتدای کار حتی زیر 100 نفر با شیخ همراه بودن و این در واقع افکار رو قبول داشتن.
And when they, you know, right after that, of course
and now that 100 has turned to how many?
Millions of people.
و الان حالا اون جنبش 100 نفره و کمتر از 100 نفره میلیون ها نفر است.
And you know, when they started, you know, so that basically whenever they would have these IVC programs, they would have like extra meetings to discuss what do we think we can do to actually, you know, make an actual influence or something of that nature. So right after that, that whole program didn't actually complete the way that it was planned, and they sat there for a meeting and we're discussing how can we, okay, if we believe this is something we have to do, if we believe we have to let go of the system that we have now, how do we go about fixing it?
Okay. Yeah. So tell us about how was your father impressed by Imam Khomeini and what happened, how he was revolutionized after this meeting, what happened to him? And instead of seeing a political Islam that's coming into force and being acted as a government, what else do you know?
Well, I cannot point to what specifically. I think the personality of Imam is very layered, and so many things may be factors to what actually inspired my father. And I believe that by the time he came here, even before he actually met Imam, I think he had already sort of almost made his mind about, you know, Imam as a role model. So I can't exactly point to that, but I do remember one specific thing that he always said that Imam sort of advised him with, which is that he has to look at his society and figure out what will work for his society, because obviously what despite the fact that the path is the same and everything, but Iranian society is not Nigerian society. Yeah.
ازشون پرسیدن خب چه چیزی در شخصیت امام یا حرف امام روی ایشون تاثیر گذاشت؟ میگن که به نظر ایشون قبل از اینکه حتی آقای شیخ زکزاکی با امام دیدار داشته باشه، تصمیمشون رو گرفته بودن که امام برای ایشون یک الگو هست و تمام ابعاد چون شخصیت امام چند لایه است و در واقع تک بعدی نیست، چند بعدی هست، تمام ابعاد شخصیت امام روی ایشون تاثیر گذاشته. و نکته‌ای که امام به ایشون گفته این هست که باید به جامعه خودش توجه بکنه و ببینه که چه سیستمی چه راهکاری جوابگوی جامعه نیجریه است، چون قطعا بین جامعه ایران و جامعه کشور ایشون تفاوت‌های زیادی هست و این نکته‌ای بوده که همیشه شیخ باید به نظر داشته.
Also, there's something important that he always points to, that when he was first introduced to the personality of Imam, he, prior to that, whenever discussions about how do we come about an Islamic system, many people would say, let's make a party and somehow we're just going to be majority and we'll form an Islamic government or something. And most people didn't think this has to start from a grassroots level and all of that. So, and he always mentions that there was a time when one of his professors of, I don't know what exactly, but in university was given an example with Imam, and he said, for example, Shah is the king of Iran, and he's the most powerful person in Iran, but Imam has the most influence, and that was another thing that did sort of pointed to him that, okay, we don't need to get into the system in order to reach people.
یکی از نکاتی که باز در زمینه حالا حرکت امام توجه شیخ خیلی جلب کرده این بود که گفت هر زمان که مطرح می‌شده که حالا ما باید در واقع یک حکومت اسلامی داشته باشیم، هر پیشنهاد می‌کردن حالا باید حزبی راه بیفته، این حزب بتونه در واقع اکثریت کرسی‌ها رو تصاحب بکنه تا به قدرت برسه. اما امام برخلاف در واقع این رویکرد بگیم رایج در امور سیاسی از جامعه در واقع یک نهضت مردمی رو شکل داد و این نکته‌ای هست که خیلی شیخ رو تحت تاثیر قرار میده که نیازی به حزب بازی نیست، نیازی به این نیست که وارد سیستم بشی و طبق قوانین سیستم بازی بکنی، بلکه و خود شیخ با یکی از اساتید که بحث می‌کردین رو گفته که شاه قدرت رو در دست داشته در ایران، اما نفوذ امام روی مردم بوده و مردم با امام همراه بودن.
So, right from the inception of the Islamic movement, they were faced with persecution, and
Okay, I guess we have to start with the questions.
Yeah.
You have
Okay, I
questions.
guess.
Tell us about Zaria incident and about your brothers and sisters who were martyred there in that incident, and tell us how many were martyred.
Yeah. So, obviously, the persecution of the Islamic movement happened over the years.
You were present in Zaria?
Yes, I was.
Okay.
Yeah.
So tell us about firsthand and what you saw there.
So basically actually the thing is that a day before the Zaria massacre started, there was a case of some brothers in a nearby city, in a very small village near Zaria, that were gathering for some program and were attacked by thugs and the police, which is
ایشون خودشون در حادثه زاریا در واقع حضور داشتن، ازشون خواستن که در مورد اون چیزی که دیدن بگن. میگن یک روز قبل از اینکه حادثه زاریا اتفاق بیفته در یه سری از مناطق در واقع همین برادران خانم مسلمانشون مراسمی داشتن که از طرف نیروهای پلیس و حالا عده‌ای آشوبگر و اخلالگر بهشون حمله میشه.
So when that happened, a few people, because obviously when people talk about what happened, they say that people came to Zaria because of the program. Yes, there was a program for the Fest of Muharram, and most people were coming to attend that. Most of the people that were martyred, evidently, and also people were coming also after they heard about the start of the incidents in Husseinia. But initially, this incident in that village nearby sort of sparked something that, a lot of people sort of thought there was sort of some tension.
So you mean that it sparked a nearby village and then they gathered in Husseinia because they wanted to protest against that?
Not particularly, but there's some tension. There's a feeling of an attack happened here, it may happen here too. You understand what I mean?
So they were expecting some kind of attack?
Yes, but not in that scale.
با توجه به اینکه حالا این حادثه توی این دهکده‌ای که نزدیک بود اتفاق افتاده، مردم در واقع آمادگی رو داشتن که همچین اتفاق مشابهی در حسینی که در زاریا هم هست اتفاق بیفته، چون تنش‌ها در واقع شکل گرفته بوده.
So on the morning of 12th of December 2015, some of the people that were attacked were actually martyred on the day before, so they were taken there for janazah and everything